You know, I think when it comes to living in a van, probably people's one biggest question is, how do you stay warm in the wintertime? And for anybody serious about doing that, these Chinese diesel heaters are well worth the money. What's up, guys? It's Chad with Living the Van Life up here in Washington. And as you can see, it is snowing. This is actually my first snowfall of the 2019-2020 winter season. Figured I would stop for the evening, bed down, and enjoy the snowfall. My Chinese diesel heater is inside the van running right now, and it has now been a year since I've had this heater installed in my van. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my experiences with this heater, give it a review, and answer some of the questions that you guys have been asking me about it. Yes. Actually, in fact, this right here is where my hot air comes out. I've got the heater mounted underneath my back seat here, and in the Westphalias, there is access to it right here, and I have it installed down underneath there. Like I said, I've had the heater installed here in my 1991 Volkswagen Westfalia for going on just about a year. Prior to this, I've used the Buddy heater, and I also had the Big Buddy heater. And both of them worked really, really well. Actually, those things were a lifesaver throughout my first initial years of van life. The further I got into van life, I found that I wanted a heat source that was something that I could run on a longer basis. The propane, it wasn't something that I was comfortable leaving on long periods of time. And the other thing is, it was propane, so it put a lot of moisture into the air. And in the wintertime up here in the Pacific Northwest, when you're living in a small space like a van, it's not necessarily the best thing to have a lot of moisture in the air. So the diesel heater has been extraordinary in that. The diesel heater puts out a nice, clean, dry heat. All of the combustion that happens in order to create the heat is actually exhausted outside underneath the van and out away from my interior cabin. So that is the nice thing. The only air that is coming out of this is just warm, dry, clean heat. And it's great, it's really comfortable. The dial actually adjusts. You can rotate this, and it's directional. So right now I've got it blowing over here towards me. I can turn it up so then it's blowing into the cabin air, and then I can turn it over here and it blows in towards the cabinets. So it's nice having that option to where you can rotate the heat. The thing is that I can turn this on long term. I can put it all the way on low, and it'll just sit and idle away. It just sips on fuel lightly. And it's nice for when the van is parked during the day and maybe I'm out working doing some editing on the documentary, or inside editing on some van life stuff. I can just set this to the lowest temperature, close up the van, and it keeps it at a nice warm temperature throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, when I come back to the van, everything's nice and warm. That is something that I would not do previously with the Mr. Buddy heater. Just because of the open flame and something fell on it, it could be very dangerous and catch on fires. Now, a lot of you guys are wondering, well, how reliable are these heaters? Because they're Chinese and it's a $150 knockoff compared to the $1,200 more expensive European brands. Well, like I said, I've been using mine for 1 year now. Last winter, I had it down into -5°F temperatures, and it kept the van nice and warm at 65 degrees inside the van. So it works really well. I used it all last winter. Come springtime, I shut it off and I stopped using it. And that heater set all the way through the summertime. I didn't do anything to the fuel or any maintenance, which maybe I should have, but I didn't. Come fall time, that first cold fall time night, I went to turn the heater on, the thing fired right back up, and it's been working ever since. It never skipped a beat. So coming into a year of it, the damn thing has been a champion. I think mine was $159 on Amazon, and it's been the best $159 that I have spent on anything van life, because this thing's a game changer. the way I look at it is, even if the thing breaks after a year or 2 years, I'm $150 into it. I'll put another $150 brand new heater in it and keep going for another 2 years, and I'm still a fraction of the cost of where I would be on the European brands. Now, I don't mean to bash the European brands at all. I've heard very, very good things about those. If my budget was a much bigger budget and I could afford to put those more expensive heaters in, I probably would do that, just for the pure fact of the customer support that is perhaps behind that. I will go on to say that on the Chinese diesel heaters, it seems to be very hit and miss on getting any sort of customer support. I've heard a lot of people get these heaters and there's no manual, or the manual's very vague, or the manual's in a different language. So the one thing that I realized with having to install my heater is I had to get creative with a few things, because they didn't make it very clear exactly what needed to happen. But you know, it just takes a little ingenuity, a little creativity, a little common sense, and these systems are actually very easy to install. Now, when it comes to installation, I'm not going to cover really any of that here in this particular video, but last year when I installed the heater, I did create a video about the installation process and how I put it in my van. So I'll put a link up in the top of the screen and you guys can check that out. Other than that, I know that you guys have had some questions regarding the energy consumption and the fuel consumption. So I will go over that information with you now and discuss that. Now, in my experiences, when I was up in the -5 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, I ran my heater on its highest setting for a period of 24 hours straight. Now, my diesel tank that supplies my diesel heater is a 15-liter tank, and it used all of those 15 liters in a 24-hour period while the heater was running on high. Now, the important thing to remember is that outside it was -5 degrees Fahrenheit. On the inside, it was a nice, comfortable 65 degrees inside the van through those conditions. Now, when you turn the heater down all the way to low, then the pump runs at its lowest capacity and it just barely sips fuel. I would say on low, if it ran 24 hours a day, I would say you'd get 5 to 7 days out of a 15-liter tank of diesel fuel. That's pretty reasonable. I find that I actually use the low setting the most. I turn this thing on low and I just let it go. If I'm in the van and it's really, really cold outside, then I'll crank it up. Now, when it comes to compared to the buddy heater, I have a hard time comparing the fuel consumption of a buddy heater to the fuel consumption of a diesel heater. The great thing about the diesel heater is you can start that thing at 7 in the morning and you can run it for the next week straight. And like I said, on low, you probably get a tank of fuel, which costs about $7 to fill up the 15 liters with diesel. With the buddy heater, about $5 or $6 worth of fuel would last me about 3 weeks. But here's the big difference. The only time I use the buddy heater is when I got in my van at the end of the day. I would turn it on before bed, use it for maybe half an hour, shut it back off, and then maybe use it again in the morning time when I get up and get ready for work. So yes, a tank of propane that costs $5 to $6 would last me 3 weeks, but it didn't really provide near the comfort that the diesel heater does, with the fact that you can just let it run on low and it warms your entire van. Because it's not all about just warming the airspace in the van, but also the fixtures. And when all your fixtures are warm, your cabinets, your walls, your curtains, the inside of your windows, the ceiling, the diesel heater warms all of that and keeps all of that warm. And that makes a big difference to heating a small space like this, is keeping everything warm, not just your air. So fuel consumption, yes, I fill up the diesel heater more often, but that's because I'm able to use it all the time, which is great. That's what I love about it. Now, the other thing that a lot of people ask me about when it comes to the diesel heater is energy consumption what kind of amps does it consume, what kind of wattage, how long will it last, do you need an auxiliary battery? So we'll talk about all of that. When it comes to putting a diesel heater inside the vehicle, it does not only require a fuel source, but it also does require an electric source. You do have to hook this up to 12 volt power because it's got an internal fan, it's got an LCD screen that controls all of the operations of the heater, and it's got glow plugs that ignite when you start up the heater to get the heat going. I've got some numbers written down here, and this information comes from my Energy Solar Kodiak box, which is my 12 volt power system that is auxiliary, and it's installed underneath my cabinet here in the van. And it's got a digital readout that tells me what kind of load my accessories are drawing on the system. And when the heater is running on a level 5, that means that it's at its fullest capacity. That means the pump is running as fast as it can. That means that the fan motor inside the heater is running as fast as it can. And at that level 5, it is drawing 3.5 amps of power from your battery system and at 43 watts of power. This is with the heater on 5, all the way up, as high as it'll go, running at full bore. Now, when you drop the heater down to an idle at 1.2, which is its lowest setting, that means that the pump is just clicking along, it's just sipping fuel. The blower motor is still going, but it's just on a very low setting. That draws 0.8 amps of power and 11 watts. This is with the heater all the way at 1.2 on the pump volume, just idling away on the maximum low. Now, 0.8 amps is very, very minimal, and that's pretty fair draw on it. And even at 3.5 amps, if it's running on high, that's not too bad. A lot of people ask me, do I need an auxiliary battery or can I hook it up to my main starter battery for my vehicle? I highly, highly, highly recommend to plan on using an auxiliary battery. My auxiliary battery charges off of the alternator when my engine is started and running. Then when I shut off, it's isolated and separated between the two batteries. So therefore, when I'm running the diesel heater, it's not pulling off of the main starter battery. You don't have to worry about getting stranded somewhere and your starter battery not having enough power to start your vehicle. I have noticed that if I just am around town using my heater and I'm running it all the time and I'm only driving, a few minutes across town, that is not enough time of the engine running for my alternator to charge my auxiliary battery. So therefore it's never able to really top back up. And I find if I'm just around town and only charging off of my alternator, meaning I don't have any solar power or I'm not plugging into 120 at the end of the day or anything like that, then it does tend to run my battery down and deplete those resources in about a week's time. At that point, I either need to be on a longer trip where the van can run long enough to top off my auxiliary battery, or when I'm working during the day, I'm parked at the office and I'm editing on the movie or van life videos, then I do need to plug in to 120 source and charge that up. One of my next things that I am working on doing to supplement this system is mounting a 100 watt solar panel on top of my van. I'm hoping that while I'm parked during the day, that energy that the solar panel is bringing in is going to keep my auxiliary battery system leveled off, and I won't have to worry about not driving enough. So with the fact that this heater is diesel powered, it becomes a challenge of, well, where do you source your diesel from if you want to install a diesel heater in your van? And in my instance, I installed the auxiliary diesel tank inside my cabinet. And a lot of people ask me or are concerned about a few different things for that reason. First of all, people are concerned the fact that there is a fuel source inside the vehicle. A lot of people ask about spilling the diesel as you're filling it up inside the cabinet, or does the tank itself emit any sort of fumes? As far as fueling up, basically what I do is I pull my van right up to a diesel pump at a fuel station. I slide my door open here and I bring the diesel pump right through the door here into my cabinet and I fuel it up. Now, I'm extremely careful. I always use paper towels and I cup the nozzle of the diesel pump with paper towels and I feed it right into the cap of the diesel tank. I top it off nice and slow, and I always leave a few inches below the top with some space for sloshing around as you drive. Then as it's done, then again I take the paper towels and I lift that up and I take the pump out, being very, very careful not to spill any fuel. You just can't treat it like a diesel pickup truck where you're just throwing your nozzle in, throwing it out, slinging fuel everywhere. If you're careless like that, yes, you are going to drip fuel inside your vehicle and it's going to smell. To me, I feel like that is common sense and that you just got to take a little extra time with it, and that's how I've handled it. As far as does it emit any fuel smell, the actual heater itself, I do not smell any exhaust at all, so that's a good thing. On the diesel tank side, I don't smell any diesel fuel inside. Now, if it is a hot summer day when it's just baking inside, it's probably 100 degrees plus, then at that point, I'll smell a tinge of diesel, but I think that's because everything's expanding and, you know, the smells are expanding. It's never been a thing to be of concern to me. And in the wintertime when everything's cold, it's not a big deal at all. So anyways, guys, that's me rambling about this diesel heater for a long time. I know that many of you have lots of questions about it and have considered running a unit like this inside your van. So I really hope that this information helps, a way that you can improve winter van life in your van. And if you guys are interested in, like I said, checking out the installation video where I kind of walk through more of where I installed it, how I installed it, then check out the link at the top of the page. If you guys are interested in looking at the product itself, I do provide a link in the description down below of where I purchased my heater on Amazon. This is an affiliate link, so if you click on it and you end up making a purchase, Amazon does kick a little bit of that back to me, and that helps support this channel. So thank you guys for doing that. Now, the link that is provided might look a little different than the one specific that I've got, but that's okay. I usually go and provide a link that has all the items that are very similar to what I've got. I think what happens is they get a big run of certain ones and then they sell out of those and they bring them in, and they might be a little different color or have a little bit different parts here and there, but for the most part I pick a link that best fits the heater that I've got. Definitely check that out, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you guys have any more questions about the Chinese diesel heater, then leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit the like button and share this video. If you have somebody else in your life that you think might benefit from this video, do me a favor and share that video with them. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure and hit the subscribe button. Next to the subscribe button, you're going to see the little bell, and make sure and click that bell because that's what's going to notify you anytime videos like this are uploaded. Other than that, guys, I'm going to enjoy this snowfall out here for a little bit, soak it up here with some van life, because I tell you what, wintertime has been my favorite time of the year to go out and live in my van. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Peace out. Keep on trucking.